If you think property's too expensive to get started, you might be looking at it all wrong. The next 10 or 15 years in Australia is either going to make you or break you for the rest of your life. If people miss out on the property boom, this super cycle that's coming up, they're going to be locked out and priced out of the market forever. Can you believe $4,000 was enough to incentivize people to have babies? I mean, it costs what, over $500,000 to have a kid these days. So that looks like the whole idea of having high-rise apartments is going to crash for a while, which means that the only way to supply everything will be through townhouses and houses. Now, there's whispers that the RBA are going to cut rates next meeting.
I heard that.
Yep, because we're officially now in recession in Australia. Your dollar keeps shrinking in value, and what you can buy for $1 goes down non-stop. That's one thing people have to realize. So if you can get a property for $660 a week, it's actually cheaper than renting. That's the fact of it. But can you get a property for $660 a week? That's what a lot of people are asking me in today's market. People get excited about, 5%, 7%, 9% returns, but look at these returns here. This one's a 349% return. Hello and welcome to tonight's session. We're talking to you for Money for Life. Think property is overpriced? Well, here's why 2025 is the year to buy. See, if you think property is too expensive to get started, you might be looking at it all wrong. Despite what the headlines are saying, certain markets are undervalued, and those in the know are already circling around and getting some bargains. Now, what I want you to do is stay till the end, because I'm going to show you exactly where I'm buying and why I'm buying and explain to you what the price differences are. Definitely. Because what's happening is people that are skipping this, they could actually end up priced out of the market. So if you're sitting on the fence now, you really need to watch this show and find out what's happening and what's going to happen while others are locking in growth. Let's get started. Hi, Adam, and welcome to our show.
Thank you, George. Hello, everybody. Hope you are doing well on this Thursday night. We are here
Excellent.
live.
Now, what I was going to say is we're streaming live in our Facebook group and also YouTube and all other channels. And Kimberly, if you don't mind sharing the PowerPoint, what I was going to do is go through what our social media has been doing lately and then talk about State of the Nation and then get on to our topic.
See that picture of me to the left there, George? I wonder when that was taken. I had a lot
Yeah.
less grey hairs back then.
Yeah.
I'm just comparing myself.
Well, I've got a good solution for grey hair. It's called dye. Really works well.
I should get rid of the Santa Claus look, hey?
Mate, you got a thick beard. That's important. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so Australia ranks 11th out of 190 countries for GDP per capita. That's top tier on paper. But let me ask you, do you feel like you're living in one of the richest countries on earth? This is what I posted on social media, and this is some of the answers we got. I'd be curious, if you're watching, tell me what you think. If you live in Australia, does it feel like you're living in one of the richest countries on earth? Okay. Do I feel like I'm living in one of the richest countries on earth? Yes, because I travel. The US is a shithole, lots of beautiful geography, but that's it. They're basically a third world country. The UK has suffered greatly from 14 years of austerity. By comparison to the Anglosphere core countries, Australia's doing really well. Yep, we're blessed. We don't have Trump. And it's a picture of someone's got a picture of Trump there. Yes, I definitely do in recent years. I've been to India, Bali, Vietnam, Albania, Sicily. Ireland is number 2. Unbelievable. Yes, Ireland only has such a high GDP per capita because it's a corporate tax laws. Yes, it's true. Because a lot of companies are in Ireland because they hardly pay any tax. Next slide, please. Lol, maybe for Albo it is grubby pals. I have to work 60 hours a week to earn the average wage because so many jobs are within $1 of minimum wage hour. We have stupidly high property prices. No, because it's top 1% that have all the wealth. Okay, so that's the answers. But look, I really believe Australia is the lucky country. However, the fact of it is, what's happening is because of what's happened since COVID and inflation, what's happening is the poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting richer. So going through a very strong time of change at the moment in the world in general, because of the AI revolution, and there's going to be major winners and losers over the next 15 years in Australia. The next 10 or 15 years in Australia is either going to make you or break you for the rest of your life. If people miss out on the property boom, this super cycle that's coming up, it's not just a normal cycle, it's a super cycle. If they miss out this super cycle, they're going to be locked out and priced out of the market forever and never going to come back in. And they're basically destined to be poor, but not only them, their children as well. But the people that lock this in and do it properly, they're going to be able to create generational wealth. And this is what I'm talking about. Because it's not just about wealth for yourself, but it's the generational wealth that matters. And that's why it's so important to look at what's happening. So, state of the nation. Australian households are shrinking, right? So, over half of all Australian households now consist of just one or two people, meaning more dwellings are needed to house the same number of people, right? So some people suggest that Australia should open up spare rooms or live in the shared housing arrangement to help solve the shortage. Because part of the problem with our housing shortage is after COVID, a lot of people didn't want to cohabitate anymore, and we've got a lot more people living separately, and we got a lot smaller households. And you can see here, part of the reason households are shrinking is look at the Australian birth rate. Back in 1955, it was 2.3. And as you can see, it kept declining, had a bit of a peak during the 70s, boom, went down. And then look what happened in '05. In '05, the government actually started this thing called the $4,000 baby bonus. And look what happened to the birth rate. Shot up again, briefly, and now it's come back down again. Isn't that fascinating that $4,000 can make a big difference?
Yeah.
I mean,
Was
the
enough to
average,
incentivize.
yeah, can you believe $4,000 was enough to incentivize people to have babies? I mean, it costs what, over $500,000 to have a kid these days, right? So $4,000 doesn't touch the sides at all, does it? Right? And obviously the government can't afford to give you $500,000 to have a child.
Yeah.
But the number of children per household has shrunk. And since the 80s, Australia's average household size declined from 2.8 to below 2.5 after COVID. And that's the household size. So that means that we need more houses just because people aren't living in the same house anymore. See, my parents, they emigrated in the 70s, actually 60s, late 60s, from Macedonia. And I remember I don't remember because I was a kid, but I remember hearing about it. So I shouldn't say I remember, I was very small at the time. When I was 2 years old, they lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with our godparents, and literally they had 3 kids, and then my parents had 1 kid. So 4 kids and 4 adults, one grandma in a 2-bedroom apartment when they first came here, like that's what I call, cramped living. And funny enough, when I talked to my godmother about this, because I caught up the last time I was in Adelaide, I spoke to my godmother. She's Serbian, and we had a good chat. And she said that they were the happiest days of her life at the time, and she didn't feel crowded at all. Even though now she lives in this massive house on her own now with her partner, and everyone's moved out. It's interesting that she didn't feel crowded. I suppose it's just a different time then. So the decline in average household size also reflects more families living without children, rather than more adults being able to afford to live with fewer people, right? Because less people having kids, therefore, that's another thing as well. So if you look at average household size, 2.5, adults per household 2, children per household 0.5,
Yes.
half a child per household. Yep. Now, Australia's hidden high-rise housing crash. Right, so the Albanese government's plan to build 1.2 million homes relies heavily on high-rise construction boom. But ABS data shows high-density approvals have collapsed, with total dwellings approval falling 5.7% in April, after an 8.8% drop in March. So building approvals for high-rise have gone right down.
And costs have gone through the roof as well.
Exactly. If you look at the next slide, and this is the deal, right? Yeah, so decline was led by sharp fall in apartment approvals, according to CBA. So they've gone right down. Not only that, what's happening is they're taking longer to build, and most of the quality is terrible. They're getting a lot of defects.
Actually,
So it's been held up.
sorry there, George. Just that last slide, you can see WA that is actually at a consistent sort of medium. It hasn't spiked anywhere, and it
No,
looks like it's going
they
up.
haven't done. It's going up
Other,
slightly,
Well, this
but
is
WA
basically
hasn't.
high rise.
yeah, like the
You
other
look at
the other
you look at New
states.
South Wales, Victoria, Queensland. There's all these high rise. WA just hasn't had the high rise builds. Yeah, exactly.
Not
You're
yet.
right. No,
Not
not
yet.
yet. Not yet. Well, I think they've missed the boat. Right? They're planning. What's going to happen is they're thinking there's going to be more rate cuts coming along, But there's a massive collapse because not only aren't they getting approved, and not only are they taking a year longer to build, and the expenses have gone up, they haven't started building most of these apartments. What I talk about high rise is over 8 stories. So they haven't started building them. And with the cost the way they are, they may not start. So that looks like the whole idea of having high rise apartments is going to crash for a while, which means that the only way to supply everything will be through townhouses and houses. And we know that won't be able to make up the slack at all.
Well,
So
they're expecting 185,000 migration numbers for 2025 alone. So there's another,
yeah,
divide
that's
that
right.
by 2, there's another 90-odd thousand houses we need.
Actually, by 3. They normally 3 people,
3
immigrants, live
people.
in per house. Not like the Aussies, where 2 of us live in the house.
Yes.
Right. Right. But yeah. So basically, this is going to create the housing crisis even worse. So it's bad for people that need somewhere to live, but if you're an investor, it's good because it's going to really push prices up. That's why they're saying there's a super cycle. Now, there's whispers that the RBA are going to cut rates next meeting.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
Yep, because we're officially now in recession in Australia, and we don't have the inflation they thought we did at all. So I think it's going to be happening, and they're still predicting 3 more rate cuts this year, right?
And
we only
what
got 6
happens when
months to
people
go.
drop rates? Yeah, look at like Nick said. What happens when they drop rates? People's confidence, people's borrowing capacities go up, and then people jump back in the market.
That's right. That's right. And see, what happened during COVID is interesting because during COVID, the whole world stopped and people actually started working from home. And a lot of people are still working from home now. So what's happened is that's changed the demographics of the Australian population quite significantly to the point now where regional areas are getting good to invest in because people can live regionally and just work on Zoom, right? Because
And catch public transport to the office once a week if they need to.
that's
Catch a
right.
train from
Even if you're a couple of hours out, you can just catch it once a week. It's totally fine. Where if you had to do it every day, it would be a hassle. Because I remember when I lived in Sydney, I was working in Mascot in Sydney, this company, this marketing company, a sales training company, and there was a guy living in Wollongong or down that way, and it used to take him 2.5 hours to get to work and 2.5 hours to get back. But he was so desperate for a job, he didn't mind, right? And when you think about it now, these days, the people wouldn't be willing to do that these days. And you look at a lot of people that are used to now working on Zoom, they don't want to come back to the office at all, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash with Peter Dutton. Remember, he said that he wanted all government workers to come back
Yep,
into the work, and there was a lot of backlash on that one.
there was, because I think Trump said the same thing. Funny enough, it's interesting. Some companies actually after COVID said, we don't want you coming back in. You're actually more productive at home. And other companies said, we want everyone coming back in. So it's fascinating how different companies got different policies, the exact opposite policies.
Yeah, so I've got a mate of mine who owns, off topic quickly, a mate of mine who owns quite a large business in Melbourne. He's got a big head office in Melbourne CBD.
Yep,
He was happy to send his staff to only come in the office, and I think they call it hot desking or something like that. So
yep.
you allocate a desk for 2 days and then you're 3 days at home. But he sort of, the amount he was paying per square meter to rent a space, he can then get a smaller office. So he was actually saving money by people working at home.
I think if you trust your staff, that's the way to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it all depends on, you know what I mean? There was interesting, talking about staffing and everything, there was an AI startup, this company that was doing coding, using AI to do coding, and all these people were investing. But behind the scenes, they were actually hired all these Indians to do the coding. It wasn't AI doing it at all. And they got busted and they've gone broke now. Is that hilarious or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. But I want to talk about pricing and why I think 2025 prices are very cheap.
At the moment.
At the moment, why prices are very cheap for housing. Because, you look at the median house price in Australia, just hit 1 million. And you think, okay, if the median house price is 1 million, which is the most expensive it's ever been, how can you say prices are cheap? Because how do you reconcile those two facts? And what I want to explain is, one, we've got to look at dollars. Dollars are different now than what they were too. So, if you bought a house 20 years ago, sure, it was a lot cheaper, but the dollar was worth a lot more money as well. So therefore, it's not the same price. So a $200,000 property 20 years ago is not a $200,000 property now, because the dollar's got different purchasing power. Because what happens is your dollar keeps shrinking in value, and what you can buy for $1 goes down non-stop. That's one thing people have to realize. So part of the whole idea is inflation erodes the power of the dollar, and that's just a fact. But also, one thing about property outpaces inflation quite considerably. So even adjusted for inflation, property prices have gone up. However, what you look at when you look at property prices, you don't look at the actual price. What you do is you look at how much it costs you out of your pocket. That's the important part, because that's what matters really. Because I don't care the price of a property. If you're making, $2,000 a week and a property costs you $200 a week, that's cheap. But if you're making $2,000 a week and your property costs you $1,000 a week, that's expensive because it's half your money, right?
Yeah.
Now, normally when people are renting, you allocate around 33% for a rental of your income. So then what we do is look back and go, okay, get your calculator out, and let's say you earn $2,000 a week. You times that by 33%. That means $660, right? So if you can get a property for $660 a week, it's actually cheaper than renting. That's the fact of it. But can you get a property for $660 a week? That's what a lot of people are asking me in today's market, because a lot of people they don't know how to find these properties or how to structure them, right? I'm curious, a little poll. What do people think online? Type in the chat, what do you think of a property worth $660? Yeah, I mean, to pay $660 a week. Because this is the deal. $660, you're paying that much if you don't know how to structure it and you get the wrong property. But the deal is, if you get the right property and you structure it the right way, then you can get a property for much less than $660. You could probably get one for $150 a week. Would you agree? Because I know our members, our clients are getting properties for $150, $200 a week. And when you think
If
about
not less.
yeah,
Depends
if
on
not,
your tax bracket too.
if not less. And that's because we know how to structure them and we know how to pick the top 100. Exactly. So when you think about it that way, that 660 is a bargain. But if you can get something for 100 or $200, that's a real bargain. It's really cheap. And that's the investor hat, when you put your investor hat on, to know that's what it is. So what's going to happen is property prices have got room to move because they're so cheap to own. Tara Holmes said $660 rent or holding cost. There's a guy on Facebook said definitely cheap. Exactly. It's very cheap. It's cheap because that's 33% of your wage to own a property. But if you could use 10% of your wage to own a property, then now you're getting somewhere. Because if you're using 33% of your wage to own an investment property, this is the issue we come up with. You might be able to get one or two, and then you're stuck because you've got no money, right? It's going to be difficult. And that's what happened when I first started investing. When I was investing in the 90s, it was costing me around $300 a week to buy a property because one, interest rates are high, but two, I didn't know how to structure it. And after a couple of properties, I was working 7 days a week and couldn't do it, right? Couldn't get any more properties after having three of them. Yeah, $900 a week. That's a lot of money. But if you know how to structure a property and get it for $100, $200 a week, guess what? That opens you up so you can buy 1, 2, 3 properties in a row and get more growth, because the more growth you get, the better. What are your thoughts of that? Now, on to another subject while we're talking about this. How is your agave going?
My agave, yeah, good, thank you. It was good.
Yep.
For those of you who out there who don't know, I've bought some land out in the country and I have started my own agave plantation. So agave is a plant that you make tequila. So there is very, very few people in this country who grow agave, and I am now officially one of them, a licensed registered farmer. I took George out there a month or two ago and showed him the initial stages. But yeah, since then it's blown up. It's growing by the day.
Yeah, how cool is that? And I'm going to help Adam with the branding of
Yes.
the agave. I'll call it our. It's your agave, but I'll call it our because I'm
We've come up
I'm
with a couple
investing.
of, what was our names we come up with?
Scorpio
Scorpions
Sunrise,
Sunrise.
because we're both Scorpios, right?
Yeah.
and that's going to be pretty cool. How long before it's ready to go though? It takes a while.
Probably the first batch is probably 5 years away.
Yeah, 5 years. It's going to be a photo too of on the label of us two. No, I think we're gonna have a photo of some Mexican girl on there instead. Hey,
Aussie girl.
organically produced.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely
But that's what I
organically.
mean. It's very rare. So I've actually spoke to a company who they bring their Mona agave in Mexico and sell it to Aussies. He
Yep,
is now in talks with me to, buy it off me, as in Australian-made organic agave. He's pretty excited about it.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's fun to have a bit of a hobby to do things, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's always good. I was um I was talking to a friend of mine in Las Vegas today, funny enough, because I was thinking about, you and I going to Vegas, and I'm planning on actually driving a tank over a car. You're going to come with
Mm.
me, right? I'm going to shoot it first and then drive over it. It's going to be fun. But because he does a lot of angel investing, and I invest with him in Silicon Valley, and we're having a chat about some of the amazing life extension things that the Silicon Valley founders are doing, right? And he had this gene therapy, and I'm doing a podcast with him next week, so I'm going to play the recording next Thursday night. It's going to be very exciting. He had a gene therapy. He normally does about 35 pull-ups. After he got this injection, a month later, 120 pull-ups.
Jesus. What's the injection full of?
It's called it's a myostatin inhibitor.
Okay.
So myostatin in your body, what it does is stops your muscles from growing, because otherwise your muscles are going to get too big. But when you get this inhibitor in, doesn't stop it, so your muscles get stronger and bigger automatically without taking any steroids or anything else like that. So pretty crazy. It's
Sure.
fascinating what all the tech, all the high-end tech CEOs are doing. You know what I mean? I'm sort of getting introduced to some of their doctors when I go to America next year as well, which is pretty cool. Because you know me, I like doing that biohacking stuff. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. What we're going to do is, I forgot to go through wins, member wins. For member wins, let me hold on a second. I'm just going to get my PowerPoint. It's quicker if I drive. And I'm going to talk about some of the results we've been getting lately, which is pretty good. Well, they're all good every week, aren't they? But let's have a look here. Okay, let's talk about member wins, and then we'll go through it. This is a picture. If you look at this picture here, for the people of the podcast, if you look at my YouTube, you actually see the picture. There's a picture here of me in the middle and all these people around. And they've all got these different colored belts because that's the belt they get. Because each property you get a different colored belt until you get black belt when you get 10 properties. And you see over there on the right-hand side, we've got a couple there with the sword because they retired, which is pretty cool. So well done. Congratulations. Andrew and Nicole got their orange belt. They bought a property at Raceview for 452,000, deposit 45,270. Current value is 617. They made a 363% return. Then we've got
What year
Peter.
did they buy?
They bought in 2023.
23. Yeah.
Property takes time, but people get excited about 5%, 7%, 9% returns. But look at these returns here. This one's a 349% return. They bought 452 as well, 45,000, and current value is 611,000. Pretty cool.
Mm.
Ben, his value is 663, 464% return. And Lindsay, he bought for 452,000. Now it's worth 631,000, 393% return. That's it. Pretty cool. So we're going to go into our private group now. So the people in the public group, before I go, people that are on the podcast, YouTube, and the Facebook group, if you want to take advantage of this property super cycle before things go crazy, type in #boom and my team will reach out to you. Now we're going to go in our private group and go deep. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and let's go into our private group.